All right, what I'm doing right now is I'm about to give the third video that I'm creating today. And this will be a brief introduction to the AWD1115 Database-Driven Web Development 2 class. A natural first question would be, okay, I'm in this class, but I have not yet taken AWD 1111, Database Driven Web Development 1. Is this going to hurt me that I'm doing them out of order? The answer is no, it should not. All right. In this class, you can look at this class, the AWD 1115 class, as being kind of an extension or a part two of the AWD 1100 C# programming class. All right. Whereas the AWD 1111, the Database Driven Web Development 1 class, is kind of an extension of the AWD 1000 class where you learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Bootstrap. All right. Now, I won't lie to you either. Guess what? In this class, there's some HTML. In this class, there's some CSS. In this class, there's some JavaScript. And in this class, there's some Bootstrap. But more or less, they're secondary. The main focus of this class is to be able to write web sites using C#. In fact, if I go back and look here, this is the write-up for the class. I don't want to sit and read to you. You can read it yourselves, but I'll leave it up there. One of the key things that's in there, as is shown, is we'll be utilizing what's called the Model View Controller, or MVC pattern, when we create our applications. Probably just the first one or two. All right. Also, will be the only time we're not going to be working with databases. All right. The idea is by the end of the semester, you're going to have a project that we'll work on throughout the semester, another project that we'll work on throughout the homework assignments and tests you'll be able to put out on your electronic portfolio. Okay. So with that said, you'll notice that if you do go out, just so you know this, and I sent this out a while ago. Let's see if I can find that. Here. Yep, there it is. All right. So if you go out, you all got this, everybody who's in the class got an email from me a while ago that had the syllabus in it. And if I go out to here, this will be the YouTube channel or the YouTube playlist for the class. You'll notice right now it's empty. The first thing that will go in there is this preview video that I'm doing right now. All right, there may or may not be other stuff that goes in there before class starts. Okay, now this is an afternoon class. I'm teaching it. In the morning, I've got an AWD 1000 class from 8:05 till 11:55. I take a quick lunch between 11:55 and 12:05. Then at class. So that's 12:05 to 3:55 Monday through Friday. I'm trying to set it up so that virtually every Friday will be a lab day. And that helps because, first of all, it lets me get some of my work done that otherwise I'd have to spend the weekend on, which is nice for me. I still do other stuff. But also, just as you've had in other classes with me, and I don't know how Evan did it. So if you've had Evan for a class or two, then this may be different. But typically I'll give you homework on a Monday and it'll be due the following Sunday. So you'll have time to work on that as well. All right. Now I'm going to do something I didn't do in the other class. All of you who are in this class, for lack of better words, you're all second year people. All right. So I can bring up the syllabus. Now, I don't want to go over, I mean, we're going to go over the book in just a second. All right. This is the same thing I showed you there. As far as the course level outcomes, notice data-driven model view controller applications, implement controllers and routing, test and debug a web app, develop sites that utilize session state and cookies, finally authenticate and authorize users. If you don't know what a lot of that stuff means, it is okay. That's what the class is about. All right. Okay. As always, the way that attendance will be taken is if I've got homework that's due on a Sunday and you turn in anything. So, there'll still be written tests, but they're a lot shorter in this book. The average size number of problems on a written test is 10 to 15, but they'll be set up the same way. As long as you've turned in a written test or something that was due that week, you're marked as present. If you've turned in nothing, you'll be marked as absent. 2 absences, I don't kick you out. Rankin kicks you out of the class, but you can always ask to come back in. All right, etc. It's not that big a thing. It really typically isn't. All right, the grading, you already know that. There are no real D's in here. All right, so if you get a D, you fail. All right, I still have to do work ethic grades. Now, if you have taken classroom classes, you probably are familiar with work ethic grades. I still have to do them, even though these are online. As long as you show me that you're at least making an attempt, you're going to get an ME, which is a meets expectations. That's what I give virtually everybody. All right. Inside Rankin is your go-to thing for the class. The syllabus is out there right now. All right. I also sent you a copy of the syllabus, but there's some other stuff out there, not really a whole heck of a lot right now. The general college information, your go-to guy is Patrick Glynn, who's the admissions counselor at Rankin-Wentzville. All right. And his phone number and email address are shown right there. I'm not going to mention them at all. The snow days pretty much are moot in here. Now, the way that this is planned, unless I am told otherwise, is I will be broadcasting from my home on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. On Thursdays, I'll be going into Rankin and they've got a conference room set up for me and I'll be broadcasting from in there. If it ever turns out that we've got inclement weather and my internet is down and I can't get on, so then sometimes I have to drive into Rankin and just go from there. I'll let you know if that becomes an issue. But as it says in the last sentence on this page, all in caps, unless you are advised otherwise, you should assume that classes will always be held. All right. So this is the way it's set up. I don't want to go over any of this. But again, you'll notice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now, it may not say in here on Fridays that it's a lab day. It may not. But you can basically, even though I might have something in here, I'm going to do my darndest to make sure Fridays are lab days. So even though it may not say that in here, don't let that throw you. Okay. All right. Now, as far as the book goes, yes, it is another Muroc text. And here is the book. All right. It is Murox ASP.NET Core MVC second edition. You'll notice it's pretty up to date. All right. It's about 6 months old or so. All right. And if I go over and bring up the table of contents, I will tell you we do not go over every chapter in this book in depth and breadth of coverage. So let's talk about the ones that we do go over. All right. We will go through the first section there, get off to a fast start. We will spend a lot of time on that. We will develop at least 2 different applications in there, at least 2, possibly more. All right. Now, I don't know right now. I'm going to talk to Evan because Evan is actually teaching. Um, no, he's not teaching this class this summer. He's teaching a different class. But I want to see. We'll see how it works. We might go all 5 chapters and then have a test. We might go through 2 or 3 chapters. And when I say a test, I mean a hands-on. But we'll spend a lot of time on section 1. We'll also spend a lot of time and totally go over section 2. All right. So we'll spend a lot of time on that. We will totally go over that. Now, for section 3, when I taught the class last, and this may change, we'll see, we did not go over chapter 14. We did not go over chapter 15. All right. I would still like to go over both of those, even if we only spend a class period on each one and you get no test at, but 16, how to authenticate and authorize users. We will go over chapter 17, how to deploy an ASP.NET Core app. That's deploying it to the internet. We'll talk about that towards the end of class. I will not repeat, I will not be going over chapter 18. You can repeat, can write C# ASP.NET applications using Visual Studio Code. We're not going to do that. I'm going to expect, all right, that you all have Visual Studio, and that's what we're going to be using. Now, speaking of that, some of you recently heard this if you're currently in the AWD1115 class. But if I go and click my Windows Start button, and I go out under my V's, there's the Visual Studio installer right there. Now, I'm going to assume for right now that you have Visual Studio. If you don't, just Google it basically. Or if you still have the installer on, if you've got nothing there, click on Modify. You should have 3 things checked. They are the one that we did for the AWD 1100 class, which is .NET Desktop Environment. You should also have the top one here, ASP.NET and web development should also be checked. And also, you should check the data storage and processing. You should be fine with just those 3 things checked. Anything else is not really has anything to do with this class. All right, now let's assume that you did do this and you've got the data storage. You can always tell by going out into your start button, checking out here, and going into your M's, and you should have a folder that says Microsoft SQL Server. Mine's a little old. Mine says 2019. If you recently did yours, it'll say 2022. Right? If you don't have this thing checked, if it's unchecked, and then you check it, and you go back after you do that, then you'd have to say install while downloading. All right? You'd have to do that. All right, that then should give you this folder, again, yours would then say Microsoft SQL Server 2019. All right. What you will need to also install for this class, and this is different from what I just told you. All right. You probably didn't do it earlier. You may have done it earlier. I don't know. All right. But I'm going to click on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in install SQL Server Management Studio. All right. And I'm going to go there, check the. Here it's got download. I don't think you'll want to learn Microsoft. I'd go to this one right here, the Microsoft.com. It's the second or third thing down. All right. And click on there. And if you look somewhere in here, there it is, SQL Server Management Studio. It's also known as SMMS. You'll probably want to make sure you have that one. If not, download it when class starts. Probably by around the second or third week, we're going to be using it after that. And you'll know that that worked because, again, when you could click Windows Start and you go down into your folder, you will have a folder that'll say Microsoft SQL Server Tools. Again, yours will probably say 2022 or 22 on it. And in there is Microsoft SQL Server Studio. I think 19 is the newest. I have 18. But if I click on there and bring it up, you can see it's bringing up SQL Server Management Studio. This is what it'll look like. When this comes up, you probably, this is kind of important right here. Everyone who's in this class, we will always use server type database engine. We will always have in here for our server name for everybody, your server name will be this. All right. And don't worry what that means. We will go over it. So that'll be your server name. Now, everyone who's in here, your username, everyone's username should be different. Mine is desktop dash M1J 4BEF backslash JP Scott. That means nothing to you. That won't help you. That won't do anything for you. But you will want to probably write this down someplace. All right. When you go and connect, when you go in and you connect to SQL Server Management Studio like this, you will click connect and it will open up in here something called the Object Explorer. All right. Later time. So I'm just going to do an exit and I'm going to start up. In fact, let me just bring up an existing project that we've been working on. Whoops, in SQL. This is one that we worked on today. Don't worry about what it is. All right. But you can get to the same thing by going into view if you've got a project up and running and find SQL Server Object Explorer. It'll bring you to the same thing. All right. And you said, do I have to remember that? No, we're going to be going over it. But the last thing I wanted to do in here is I wanted to show you a working project. All right, the kind of thing that we're going to be able to do in here. Now, how far we get with at least some of this stuff is going to be dependent upon how well people do or do not understand things. I mean, I don't know any other way to put it than that. Okay, all right. But to show you a project, I think I've still got it up and running. And Yeah, I do. That's running. So where's the rest of it? I got that. Let me stop it and start it again. And there we go. This is a thing that we made up last year. So you'll notice I've got a menu up here. All right. When we get towards the end of the class, you'll learn how to add administrative features. This has got just kind of some fake admin features in it, but manage categories. So if I click on that, these are our categories. And we can either update an existing category or delete an existing category or add a new one. All right. And that'll add stuff to a database. We've got products. All right. Each product has a name and a price. We can update that product's name or price. We can delete that product. All right. And these are all of our products, but notice we can also break it down. So if I only care about my clothing, I only get clothing products. If I care about components, I only get component products, wheels products, etc. And I can add a new one. Those are our features. Those are our features that are in our admin. Don't worry about that because that's more towards the end of class. But so notice view our products. So here's all of our products. Again, I can break them down. So if all I want to show are our car racks or our clothing or our bicycles, etc. And you'll notice that when we bring these up, it's got a view details and an add to cart. If I click the view details, it will show me details about that product. And I can click add to cart here. And this isn't fully operational, but it says your product was added to the cart, or I can do it from going to products and I can add it to cart from right here. I get to the same thing both ways. All right. I've got a home page. Doesn't have much on it. Isn't that great? This was earlier in the semester. And we've got an about page, which again, doesn't have much in it. The first day that you are in class, we are going to build an application as a class. You will not need a database for this application. All right. So if you don't have SQL Server Management Studio or SMMS, if you don't have it downloaded, you'll still be okay. It's going to be fairly simplistic, but when we run it, it'll kind of look like this. Our homepage is going to have 3 hyperlinks in it. So imagine that we click to like show all of our products. It will have something like this. We won't have an add to cart, but we'll have a view details. So if you click here and you click that, you'll get something that looks like this. Now, that said, we don't bring in images until later in the semester. So don't worry about that. One thing I'm excited about and what I'm planning on having us do is starting very close to the beginning of the semester, very close to the beginning of the semester, we are going to be writing at least one application as a class. All right. And when I say that, it'll be a semester long type of application. All right. The only other thing that I wanted to tell you about what here is if I bring up the book, which is right here. You've already seen this, but that's okay. So again, we're going to go over chapter 1 on day 1. Then we're going to build an application. All right. We're going to build an application and really play around with it a lot in here in the later chapters in here. All right. Now you'll notice in chapter 13, they have a project that they want you to start building called the bookstore website. My hope is by that time, we'll have most of that already built when we get there. We're going to do one other project. I'm still not sure what it's on, and don't worry about it. But this is what I want to show you. So for instance, if we go to chapter 1, it's a typical Muroc book, broken down into sections. The page on the right, the page on the left is all text. The page on the right is either going to be code or pictures or charts and a summary of what was on the left. Nothing new there. But what we have not done in the past, and we are going to do it in this class. All right. At the end, oops, sorry about that. At the end of the chapter, we're going to at least try this and see how it works. All right. And that is, we're going to do the exercises in the book that are at the end of the chapter. Now, that said, you will have these. You will have starter files for these. You will have the completed files for these. So you won't be turning these in. But the idea behind these, all right, is that should make it easier for you when we actually start giving homework and labs and stuff. And as far as that goes, let me show you this. I'm almost finished. Give me about 5 more minutes at the most, probably, and I should be done. But this is what I'm going to end up sending you later on before the class starts. So under Muroc, let's see. All right, you'll get the student download, which will have all the apps in the book. All right, and the exercise stuff. All right, and I'll look through that first to make sure it's correct. I get everything. So you will also get the slides. There are PowerPoints. I'm not going to be going over those, but I want to mention these, and that is, let's see, case study. I want to show you this quickly. I don't want to spend much time on this at all. And the student, I guess it is. Okay, good. All right. One thing that you are going to be assigned virtually every chapter are going to be, are going to be whatever, this case study. This is a case study on a mythical place that's called the Sports Pro something or other, Sports Pro database or something. All right. And you're going to have time, you're going to be working on this for every chapter, virtually every chapter. Now, the projects that are in here, I don't know what I'm going to assign. All right. Because what we did last semester was I assigned virtually all of these, but I went through them in class and built them and had students follow along. And I'll tell you, many times that was a cluster. It didn't work very well. So we'll see when we get to that point exactly what we'll be doing. But again, it is my responsibility to grab that student download stuff and get it out to you as soon as possible. All right. As always, if you have any questions, jpscott@rankin.edu. Have a good rest of the day, and I'm done.